President Trump warned late last night, the Western Hemisphere is not open for foreign military games. We will respond fast, and we will respond strong. At 4:12 a.m. local time, the quiet over Caracas breaks without warning. A deep, heavy engine sound rolls across the city, far louder than any civilian flight. From low clouds above the coast, a massive military transport aircraft drops fast toward Maiquetía International Airport. There is no civilian flight number on public trackers, no advance notice, no escort. The aircraft is quickly identified as a Russian Il-76. Instead of circling or calling the tower, it lines up straight for the runway. Landing lights slice through the darkness as the wheels hit the ground and the plane rolls toward the military side of the airport. Within minutes, Venezuelan security teams seal off the area. No cameras, no statements. This is not a routine visit. Instead of keeping the move quiet and distant, Moscow brings a military aircraft straight into the Caribbean, less than 3 hours from Florida by air. For us commanders watching live feeds, this does not look like cooperation. It looks like a test of limits. Across the Caribbean, radar rooms fall silent. Screens sharpen. Analysts lean forward. This is not confusion or bad timing. It is a deliberate signal. What the crew inside that aircraft does not know yet is how fast this single landing is about to trigger a much larger response. If you want to follow this confrontation as it unfolds, subscribe now and stay with us. To understand why that single landing matters, you have to look at where it happened. The Caribbean is not empty water. It is one of the most watched zones in the world. Every hour, cargo ships, fuel tankers, patrol aircraft, and us naval units move through tight lanes that support trade, energy flow, and regional security. Radar coverage here runs around the clock. Nothing large moves without being seen. Maiquetía sits right on that edge. It is not just an airport near Caracas. It is a gateway facing the Caribbean Sea, less than a short flight from US territory. When a foreign military aircraft lands there without notice, it sends a message far beyond Venezuela. It tells Washington that someone is willing to test how close they can move without asking. This was not about supplies or routine cooperation. The aircraft type matters. The Il-76 is built to move troops, heavy equipment, and sensitive systems fast. That means whatever arrived could be set up quickly and quietly. For planners in Florida, that raises one question right away. What changes on the ground once that cargo is unloaded? There is also a human side to this. For us crews tracking the flight, this was not politics on a screen. It was another long night in a control room, watching the symbol move closer to home. Every operator knows that one wrong assumption can turn a calm watch into a crisis. If you think this move was just political theater, press 1. If you believe it was a real security test aimed at us forces, press 9 and subscribe to stay with us. This is why the reaction started fast. Not because war was coming, but because uncertainty is dangerous. In this region, silence can create more risk than noise. And once that aircraft stopped on the runway, the clock started for everyone watching. The first response begins quietly, almost invisibly. Minutes after the Il-76 stops on the runway, detection turns into tracking. In a control room in Florida, a radar technician watches a clean symbol lock in. Speed steady, altitude confirmed, origin verified. The room does not get loud, it gets focused. Within the hour, the first aircraft are already moving. A US P-8 Poseidon lifts off from a Caribbean base and heads south, staying high and wide. Its job is not to threaten. It is to see everything. Below, the sea looks calm, but the sensors are busy, reading patterns, signals, and gaps that do not belong. At the same time, an RC-135 rolls down a different runway. Inside, crews strap in as screens warm up. Antennas extend. Headsets come on. This plane does not carry weapons. It carries ears. Every transmission near the coast of Venezuela is pulled in, tagged, and measured. On one screen, a thin line spikes, then fades. The operator marks it and moves on. No one reacts yet. Off the coast, US Navy ships begin to shift position. Not fast, not aggressive, just enough to change angles. An AEGIS radar sweeps wider, refreshing every few seconds. In close watch operations, small adjustments matter. A few miles can change what you see. Back at Maiquetía, ground activity continues under tight control. Vehicles move between the aircraft and nearby hangars. Thermal sensors show heat building, then dropping. Loading ramps go up, then down again. From above, it looks organized. Too organized for a casual visit. Inside the command chain, updates move up fast. Short sentences, clear numbers, no speculation. One officer asks a simple question: is this temporary, or is this the start of something longer? No one answers right away. Then a global hawk joins the picture, flying high enough to be unseen from the ground. It circles slowly, patient, watching roads, buildings, and open areas far beyond the airport. Every movement is logged, every change is time-stamped. This is the first phase. No warnings, no statements, just eyes, ears, and data stacking up. If you think this response is measured and smart, press 1. If you believe this situation is about to escalate fast, press 9 and subscribe to stay with us. By the end of the first day, us commanders are no longer asking what landed in Caracas. They are asking what comes next, and how soon the next move will reveal itself. The escalation does not come with explosions or loud warnings. It comes with coordination. Within hours, radar networks across the Caribbean begin to align. Systems in Puerto Rico, Curacao, and farther south start sharing the same picture. Tracks update faster. Blind spots shrink. What looks scattered before now feels connected. In the air, tempo increases. Another P-8 slides into the patrol box, overlapping coverage so nothing drops off the screen. Crews rotate, but the watch never stops. Fatigue sets in quietly. Coffee cups pile up. Short checklists replace long conversations. In this kind of operation, discipline matters more than speed. At sea, us Navy ships settle into new lanes. Engines hold steady. Course changes stay small. An AEGIS console refreshes again and again, pulling in returns from aircraft, surface contacts, and distant emissions. In close monitoring, even a 5-degree turn can change what a radar sees. The ocean stays calm, the tension does not. Then NATO joins the rhythm. Satellite tasking increases. Electronic patrols sweep wider arcs from the Atlantic side. Data flows into shared channels, time-stamped and verified. No press release follows. Silence is the message. Everyone involved understands what it means when allies move without announcing it. Near Caracas, activity spreads beyond the airport. Sensors pick up movement along secondary roads. Power use spikes briefly near secured facilities, then levels out. It looks like testing. Short bursts. Controlled checks. Someone is seeing what works and what gets noticed. Back in command rooms, the pattern becomes clear. This is not a 1-hour visit. It is not a show for cameras. It is a slow build, meant to stay below the noise line. That makes it more dangerous, not less. Quiet moves can change facts on the ground before anyone argues about them. A senior watch officer breaks the silence with a simple line: maintain coverage, do not blink. The order spreads without emotion. Everyone knows what is at stake. If you think this quiet escalation is the most dangerous phase, press 1. If you think the real turning point is still ahead, press 9 and subscribe to stay with us. As night returns over the Caribbean, there is still no confrontation, but the space between both sides feels tighter. Each signal matters. Each move is logged. The situation is no longer forming. It is set, waiting for the next shift to push it forward. The twist does not come from the sky or the sea. It comes from the signals. Late into the watch, analysts notice something subtle. Not a spike, not a surge, just a pattern that does not match the background noise. A short burst, then silence. Then another burst, slightly shifted. At first, it looks like interference. Weather maybe, terrain reflection, but when the data lines up, the pattern repeats. Same timing, same spacing. Someone is testing, not transmitting. It is not a broadcast, it is a probe. The source appears inland, near elevated terrain outside Caracas. Not a base, not a tower, Mobile. That changes the picture. Whatever arrived on the IL-76 is no longer sitting still. It is being powered up, checked, and quietly moved. What no one saw at first was the decoy effect. The emissions are just strong enough to pull attention, but not strong enough to reveal full capability. It is a classic technique. Show a shadow, not the shape. Make the other side look harder while you stay hidden. Inside the watch floor, no one celebrates. This is not a breakthrough, it is confirmation. The landing was not symbolic, it was functional. Someone on the ground is asking a question through electronics and waiting to see how fast the answer comes back. A supervisor leans in and gives a short instruction. Shift assets, cross-check sources. Assume this is only phase 1. The mood tightens. The crews did not know it yet, but the quiet phase is ending. This is the moment when a controlled move becomes a real contest. If you think this signal test means the situation just changed, press 1. If you believe the US already anticipated this step, press 9 and subscribe to stay with us. Because once systems start talking, even in whispers, both sides know the next exchange will not be invisible. The climax arrives without a single shot fired. It begins in the glow of screens. In a dim operations room, the data feed thickens. Lines stack. Timestamps compress. What was once spaced minutes apart now arrives in seconds. The test signals are answered, measured, and mapped in real time. An RC-135 slides into position and holds steady. Inside, the crew barely moves. Headsets stay on. One analyst raises a hand, not to speak, but to mark a change. The pattern has shifted again, slightly stronger, slightly wider. Someone on the ground is pushing the system harder. A global hawk passes overhead, unseen, patient. Its sensors sweep the area again and again, building a layered picture. Roads, power draw, short stops, quick relocations. Nothing dramatic, everything intentional. The kind of movement meant to avoid headlines and still change reality. On a nearby ship, an AEGIS operator watches the radar refresh. No threats, no locks. But the system is ready. Fingers rest near controls. Not because action is ordered, but because readiness is the message. In close situations, being prepared is part of deterrence. A short radio call breaks the silence. One line, calm, confirm tracking continuity. The reply comes back just as clean. Confirmed. No one raises their voice. No one needs to. For a few seconds, the room goes completely still. 3 seconds that feel longer than the last 3 hours. Then the feed stabilizes. The emissions fade. The test is over. For now. This is the peak moment. Not because something exploded, but because both sides now understand each other clearly. One side showed capability, the other showed reach. No warnings were issued. None were needed. If you think this quiet standoff proves us control the situation, press 1. If you believe this was only a rehearsal for something bigger, press 9 and subscribe to stay with us. Because in modern conflict, the most dangerous moment is not when systems fire. It is when both sides realize they are being watched and choose what to do with that knowledge. By the time the signals fade, nothing looks damaged. No aircraft are hit, no ships retreat, no public statement claims victory. On the surface, the region appears unchanged, but the balance underneath has shifted. Us commanders review the data quietly. The aircraft landed, the systems powered up, the emissions were tested and mapped. Every move was tracked. The conclusion is simple. This was not an accident, and it was not a one-time visit. It was a deliberate attempt to introduce new capability into a space the US watches closely. From a military view, the outcome favors Washington. The response was fast and coordinated. Air, sea, space, and electronic monitoring stayed linked the entire time. Nothing moved without being seen. Nothing activated without being noticed. That message matters more than any public warning. For Venezuela, the cost is growing pressure. Hosting foreign military systems brings attention and risk. Every road, every facility, every signal now sits under a brighter spotlight. For Russia, the lesson cuts both ways. The flight proved reach, but it also proved how quickly the US and its partners react. The Caribbean did not hesitate, it closed ranks. Beyond this moment, the ripple spreads. Regional patrols increase. Information sharing accelerates. The Caribbean is no longer just a trade route. It is an active surveillance zone where small moves trigger big responses. If you think this standoff ends here, press 1. If you believe this was only the opening test in a longer confrontation, press 9 and subscribe to stay with us. Because the next move may not come with warning, and it may not allow time to think.